We're not quite at 17, but there is another candidate in the Conservative leadership nomination race. Andrew Scheer, the man beside me, MP, longtime MP for Regina Qu'Appelle. It's what, 12 years now?
That's right. 2004 was the first time I got elected.
At age 12.
A little bit older than that. I was
Okay.
at least old enough to vote because I voted in that election. I was 25, just turned 25 during the 2004 election.
So you got up here. I met you back then. You were one of the young guns, one of there was a whole crop of you now, and you're no longer one of the young guns, and now you're looking to lead the party. Give me the elevator pitch. If people out there are members of the Conservative Party, why should they be voting for you?
Well, first of all, I'm what I like to call a real conservative, an unapologetic, full-spectrum conservative. And I believe that the key to victory is not changing who we are, not advocating for things we don't believe in or that we know won't work. We need to stay true to our conservative principles and the values that have made this country great and weathered Canada through the economic downturn just recently. But we do need to connect with more voters, and I think that's the key. Is our conservative principles are actually more compassionate than the left. They actually do more for vulnerable people and poor people in the middle class. We need to talk about our motivations more and offer a more positive vision of what conservatism means to Canadians.
I've argued that for a long time, and I'll get to how you do that in a moment. But you mentioned that you're a real conservative, a full conservative. You're going to be painted, you know this, as the social conservative, or one of the social conservatives in there. But the first time I remember interviewing you, you were still in opposition. You came by my office, which was just downstairs on the third floor, and you were talking about auto insurance fraud or something to that effect. You had a private member's bill. So you've got a fuller spectrum than what some people are going to try and paint you as.
Well, a lot of those on the left and they like to try to put people into boxes, but absolutely, there's a whole range of economic issues and social issues that go beyond what is often perceived as just being socially conservative. But even apart from that, there's a lot of things that social conservatives agree on with people who aren't necessarily view themselves that way. And when you look at what the government accomplished under the previous administration, there's a lot of family-friendly tax cuts that are very positive for both fiscal conservatives and other types of conservatives. Raising the age of sexual consent from 14 to 16, something that every kind of conservative could agree.
And a lot of non-conservatives said, "Hey,
yeah.
Why didn't we do that before?"
Exactly. So I don't like to kind of be. I know the media likes to try to pigeonhole people and write a narrative, but there are things that unite our caucus, there are things that unite our movement, and there are things that divide us. And I think it's incumbent upon every leader, every leadership candidate to bring conservatives together. We don't always win when we're united, but we always lose when we're divided.
All right. How do you broker those divisions then, and what would the divisions be within the party? I had somebody telling me, as we were talking leadership a little while ago, guy who's a member of the party said, we've just got to shove the social conservatives out.
We need every single conservative on board in the next election. We need every single one of them to vote for us, to help us on campaigns and help spread the message to that next tier of voters to help us get back to government. So we won't win by shoving anybody out. We won't win by telling a whole whack of people that we don't need your support or we don't want you as part of our movement. A good unifier can bring every kind of conservative in and keep them focused on winning the next election. So, I think there are some things that are achievable. There are some things that are reasonable to run on in the next election, some things that aren't. And the key, the success for my leadership campaign and then ultimately as leader of the party will be identifying those issues, like the ones I just mentioned, that can keep every kind of conservative excited about being part of the party and the movement and help us win in 2019.
I asked Maxime Bernier when I interviewed him, he's more on the libertarian side, and I said, well, what's your pitch to social conservatives? And he said, you'll have a voice, we won't need everybody in, similar to you. What would you say to libertarians who haven't made up their minds yet and are thinking, is this guy for me?
Well, look, I approach every issue, by going back to first principles and what is the proper role of government, and are there options that don't include government to begin with. There's a lot of things the government doesn't do well, and we should keep it in the areas that it does provide a proper function. One of the things I can say to those types of conservatives would be, we have to, as a party, look at empowering and enlarging the non-governmental parts of society. So going back to localism and subsidiarity, and the federal government shouldn't do things that the province can do, and the province shouldn't do things the municipalities should do, and that municipalities shouldn't do things that communities should do, and communities shouldn't do things that families should do.
Oh, you're
And
speaking my language, subsidiarity. Oh, okay.
no, but it's important, and it's not.
No, yeah, I'm not joking.
But it's not because, but we have to be very clear on why we believe in that. It's not because we just don't like the federal government, or we just don't like the provincial government, or whatever the level of government it is. It's because it's actually better for people. It's better for communities when the people on your street and the people in your area are involved in projects, because it's more responsive, it's more human. Government tends to be cold and bureaucratic and cold-hearted, and we have as MPs these stories of the veteran that gets denied a wheelchair or a program, and it's because he doesn't fit neatly into a bureaucratic box that was designed in Ottawa. And when you have a decentralized government that empowers other layers of society, that doesn't happen, because when the veteran comes in and people know him and they know he served and they know his story, and they say, well, for whatever technical reason he doesn't qualify, but we all know he should qualify and we'll approve it. But you can't do that with government. Government's inflexible.
Not if you're sitting at a desk 6,000 kilometers away. So how do you sell that? Because you're talking about smaller government at the federal level, moving things down. That would be pushed back against as downloading and cutting and all of these things. So how do you sell this idea and do it with a smile, which is something that in the last little while Conservatives haven't always been good at?
Well, I think the key is to talk about what motivates us, and the key is to make sure people understand that the reason why we're arguing for those policies or for that approach is not ideological or philosophical, but because it's better for people. It's better for citizens and taxpayers and our vulnerable sector if they're being looked after and if they're being assisted by a level of government or a society that's closer to them. And that's what's motivating us. And I think what has happened too often in the past, not just in Canada but around the world, is Conservatives, we like to point to a data points in a chart, and we kind of do a mic drop. There, the data speaks for itself. But we need to go beyond that and talk to Canadians about, I want to do this because I want the veteran to get the programs that he deserves. I want the vulnerable person in my riding and around the country to have efficient services, and I don't want it to cost the taxpayer any more money than it needs to, because I understand that the private sector has to grow to create the wealth to make sure that programs are there for the people that need it.
We can feed people at $1,300 a head on a plane with the Prime Minister. Someone's got to pay that bill. Why did you get into politics? What was your personal motivation for saying, I want to spend all my time flying across the country from Regina to Ottawa?
Well, I can tell you what first got me interested in politics. And I used to deliver the Ottawa Citizen here when I was much younger, and being a paper boy, I liked to read the paper before I delivered it. I'll never forget it. I think it was Boxing Day or December 27th. I think it was 1991 or around there, and it was when Nicolae Ceausescu got shot in Romania.
Oh, okay.
And I remember just being fascinated. I think it was 89. I think I was 10 years old, and I remember just thinking, what happened? How could a leader of a country get killed by his own troops? And what's the story there? And that's what prompted me just to ask my dad a whole lot of questions about, could that ever happen here? Why not? And my dad's a brilliant guy and really into politics and philosophy, and so we just started talking more and more about it, and we started following elections, and that's what kind of inspired me to run. And one thing that my people that I grew up with and knew, and my parents and family said, good people need to enter politics. We need people to fight for the things we believe in, and it's an honest vocation for people who put the best interests of their countries at the forefront. All right,
and now you're entering another phase of it, the latest candidate in the leadership race. Where can people find out more about Andrew Scheer?
www.andrewscheer.com.
If you don't own your own web name these days, you're nowhere in politics.
Right. Don't forget the C in between the S and the H. But.
All right. Andrew, thanks for the time.
Thanks very much. Great to be here.
Hope you liked what you just saw. If you did, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's free, and that'll make sure you never miss another Rebel video. Or if you want even more from The Rebel, head over to therebel.media and become a premium member.